We hear in today's responsorial psalm, "Here I am, Lord, I come to do your will." This past weekend, I was asked by one of my parish's faith formation teachers to speak to our 10th graders about discernment, priesthood, and celibacy. I carefully explained to the 10th grade class that discernment is really just a fancy word for trying to figure out what God is calling you to do with your life. Discernment is specifically addressing what state of life that God may be calling you towards. At first glance, discernment may seem like an easy and quick process, but in reality, at least most of the time, discerning God's will in our lives is a process that takes much time, much patience, and much prayer. God wants each one of us to be happy, joyful, and fulfilled in our vocation. God will never call us to something that will make us unhappy or miserable. So you might ask the question, how can I truly discern that God is calling me and asking me to go in a certain direction with my life? I tell people that more often than not, God will give us a true sense of inner peace. The peace that the Lord will give us is not a worldly peace, which brings us a false sense of security. But if we have truly discerned God's will in our lives and sincerely tried to ask Him, "What do you ask of me, Lord?" our hearts will be filled and flooded with a sense of true peace, an inner peace that the world simply cannot give. It's the peace that comes from God and God alone. Whether you are discerning a vocation to the priesthood, the religious life, marriage, or just some other major decision in your life, you will not be truly joyful or at peace unless you resign yourself to do the will of God. And keep in mind that doing God's will is not always going to be an easy path without sufferings and bumps in the road. You may experience opposition from family members, friends, and other people in your life who do not understand how you decided or discerned how to go in a certain direction. You may also experience discouragement and other obstacles which are simply too numerous to list. But ultimately, if you follow the path that God has in store for you, He will give you the grace and the strength to persevere and see that His plan that He has in store for you comes to fruition. We need not be afraid on our spiritual journey. Rather, we must trust God with our whole hearts and our whole souls and say with humility, "Here am I, Lord, I come to do your will."